Welcome back to the Bears Baseball Network. We did have some rain this weekend, but some of our teams were able to go out and play, and with that, we had several more tournament championships. And let's go ahead and start with the team that we feel like we always start with. It's 13U Birnstill, another tournament championship. Bernie, 50 wins on the season already secured. You have tied the record for team tournament championships in a season. I believe you won your 11th, right? So just an unbelievable year for this team where coming into the year, 50 wins was the goal. And you did that, Bernie, with 3 weekends left to play. Just an incredible year for this team. We've talked about these guys a lot. Harrison Blabaum, Rudy Montenegro Langley, Owen Lewis. I mean, this entire team has really come together. But let's talk about some of the role players toward the end of this bench. A guy who I thought got some massive hits for us this weekend was Rowan Damschroeder, who he's always been a guy who, when he's on, he is one of the best hitters on the team. And this weekend, he was certainly on, Bernie, in that one-day tournament. Tell me about Rowan Damschroeder and his kind of benefits for this team.
Yeah, like you said, when Rowan, is on, he's one of the best hitters on the team. He can get the ball just about as hard as anybody. But it's all in Rowan's head. If Rowan's up there taking a good approach up there, he's getting at least 2 or 3 hacks in every at bat. He's going to hit the ball hard somewhere, right? He just has a tendency to think that his strike zone's this big, and sometimes he doesn't swing the bat. But when he does, he's a really good hitter. And he made a couple really, really nice plays defensively in the outfield too, including a big double play and a big spot over championship game.
KJ, 2 guys who have kind of been added to this team here as rookies and have kind of been working their way into more playing time, but I thought both played a good role this weekend. Kenny Douglas and Braden Young. These 2 guys who I think are finding their roles right now. I think Kenny Douglas is getting some time in the infield, starting to move up in that lineup, and Braden Young is one of those guys who starts maybe half the games, gets some big at-bats off the bench, but I thought both these guys played really well this weekend. Obviously, this is more toward the future of this team, but what have you seen from Braden Young and Kenny Douglas that makes you excited about their future?
Yeah, I think both these guys are very, high-ceiling guys off the bench. I always say I like to have guys on the bench that if they come up, they're either going to hit a bomb or they're going to strike out. And I think, Braden Young is kind of in that area right now, and this is really the start for all the big-time power hitters. They started half the time they're hitting bombs, half the time they're striking out. So just, weeding that out, and you end up like a guy like Rudy who hits bombs basically all the time. So I think Brady Young is that kind of guy, and Kenny Douglas hits the ball really hard as well. So I think both these guys are part of the long-term plans.
Let's move into another team that won this weekend, and that is the 17U Dalton team. This team, for their standards, obviously one of arguably the best team in the Bears over the past 2 or 3 years, for their standards came out a little bit slow to start this fall. Uncharacteristic like them, had a couple rough weekends, but now it seems like they're right back to dominating. Bernie, when you look at this team, guys like Vince Dalton, who's had a very, very impressive fall so far, guys on the mound, it's really been a team effort. What have you seen from this Dalton team this fall that's allowed them to get right back on track?
I think it's early in the fall, maybe a little rust knocking off here with the bats or whatever it may be. But like you said, this team is not just 1 or 2 guys. This team can hit 9 deep. All 9 guys are a threat, and all 5 guys they put on the mound can go up there and absolutely throw shutouts. So at any given time. So this team's obviously very stacked, and there's a little bit of rust knocked off, and now they're right back to being probably the best high school team we have here.
Another team that got off to a little bit of a shaky start at the start of the fall, and big part of that was moving to the drop 3 bat, which we know is a big killer of baseball careers, is moving that drop 3 bat, was 15U Floyd. They have really been back with the vengeance over the last 2 or 3 weeks, getting back to swinging hard, getting comfortable with the drop 3 bat. KJ, when you look at this lineup, you knew it was just a matter of time before these guys figured out the drop 3 and really started putting some big offensive numbers on the board. When you look at this 15U Floyd lineup, KJ, what do you think about these types of hitters when it comes to hitting with the drop 3, and what do you think about them this weekend?
These guys, I think we've kind of been blinded by other teams to not recognize how much star power this team still has. I mean, Lucas Wilburn, Logan Payne has absolutely had the big breakout season everyone's predicting. Evan Lancaster, Mason Geddes. And then you go towards even the middle to bottom. You got guys like Jack Kester in there. So just big bats all throughout the order. I think we kind of forget how deep this team is.
Bernie, when you're looking at this lineup, obviously you got the star power at the top, but with injuries, with high school ball, there's been a lot of roles that needed to be filled. A couple guys who I think have done a really nice job of that, for the first part, is Dylan Graham, who's come up. He's been in the Bears a long time, Bernie, finally getting his chance with the top team and doing a good job while he's been there. And another guy who played a big role this weekend, again, kind of covering for some injuries, was Joey Haddikin. These 2 guys, Bernie, Dylan Graham and Joey Haddikin, what do you think of their play this weekend, and how do you think it really helped the 15U Floyd team get this GMB championship?
Yeah, Dylan Graham, I think that, as of late, we get more and more starts, especially at third base. He's been pretty good over there. I don't think he's made too many errors over there. I think it's a relatively new position for him, moving over from second base. And I think we've all known, the stats he's put up on Bell or Vallette, that he can always hit. And it was going to transfer over eventually. He's done fine offensively all year. And Joey Haddokin, he kind of just got thrown into the fire a little bit, right? Hey, go catch, all these top guys. Go catch Lewis Wilburn. Go catch Evan. Go catch Veli. All these guys that are, very tough to catch. I think Joey's still relatively new, but I thought he handled himself well. And again, Joey was another guy who proved in the summer that he could hit. I thought for me it was just a matter of how well he was going to be behind the plate.
Yeah, this team, again, you got the star powers up top, but I think the role players that have kind of really come up and stepped up have really fold this team out and turning them again into a top team. Let's go ahead and get a little bit of a rookie checkup here. We're going to go through 5 rookies who we highlighted at the beginning of the fall season, and now let's take a look and see. We're all excited about all 5 of these guys. Let's see how they've been doing. And let's go ahead and start with the team we're talking about right now, Bernie, in 15U Floyd. Conrad Comiskey, he's a guy who, again, as soon as we saw him at practice, we liked him at catcher training, and now we're starting to like him in a Bear uniform. This guy, since he's joined the team, has the highest batting average of this roster. Again, he's played a good catcher, he's played a good infield, and, he's pitched okay in his opportunities as well. Conrad's been a nice addition to this team, Bernie. What do you think about the present and future of Conrad Comiskey?
Yeah, I think that the first practice, I thought this guy was a pretty good player, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I knew he was a pretty good catcher, looked pretty slick in the infield. I thought he could be, potential starting shortstop or third base for that team. But what he's done offensively, I think, has been amazing for a rookie. He's on a lineup with Willie B, Kester, Aaron Knoll, Evan Lancaster, all these top guys. He's second on the team. First and average, second OPS this fall. So it's how quickly he's been able to develop. I think he'd easily, be one of the top guys for this team, coming out next spring as well.
Moving into 16U Bernie, or KJ, a guy who was our number 2 prospect in the entire Bears, Bruce Bortel. He's got onto this star-studded roster, started as a role player, but has really kind of forced his way into more playing time and more innings on the mound. He's been fantastic. KJ, what have been your thoughts? Has Bruce Bortel kind of lived up to what you expected of him, and what do you expect from the future here?
Yeah, I think he's kind of lived up to the hype. He's been a great hitter for that team. They're so loaded, it kind of, they overshadow him. But I think what he's done on the mound, I think he's gone 9 scoreless innings, 14 strikeouts. This guy's just shoving on the mound. And I think, how deep this team is, a lot of teams, a lot of really good teams, Bruce Bortel would be their best hitter and best pitcher. And I think on this team, he's still finding his way, but I definitely think he's a part of the future in every way.
Yeah, it looks like, when he's had his opportunities, he's performed. And that's all you got to do to really kind of get your name out there, to get more playing time. He's certainly been doing all the right things. Bernie, moving on to your roster, a guy that we talked about a little bit over the past couple weeks with the success of this team has been Alex Vo. Again, a top 10 prospect when he walked through the door. But this guy has really performed at all levels. Defensively, he's kind of been thrown in as the starting shortstop. He's taken the mound on Saturdays, and he's been a big part of this lineup, batting, I believe, in the cleanup spot, Bernie. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's been a huge part of this team, Bernie. What's it been like adding Alex Vo to this star-studded roster?
Yeah, I think early on there was a little bit of nerves involved with him. I don't think he's played too much shortstop before he came here, but in week 3 of the season, I told him that he just had a bad game at shortstop, and I was like, hey, you're going back out there next game at short, and he was like, I don't know if I can do it, Bernie. But now I think we're at a point where if I said that same thing to him, he'd be like, okay, yeah, I can do it. That comment says, was transferred from defense to offense. I think he's like 3rd or 4th on team in OPS right now. It's Harrison and Rudy, and then it's Owen Lewis and Alex Vo at 3 and 4 right there together. So he's been great, to build around those guys.
Yeah, and this is a guy, Bernie, who I'm not sure is going to have very many more bad games at shortstop. He continues to look more confident there. He continues to make some big plays in big moments, and he's only going to get better as the months go on. KJ, moving on to your team, a lot of rookies here to choose from. Some guys we've talked about a lot, Lena Portell, Hank Schultz, Colby Lair, those are all guys we've talked about a lot. But a guy who maybe is getting overshadowed a bit with those other rookies is Christian Jenkins, who, again, he's one of those guys that just has that right attitude to be successful in the Bears. He's fearless. He will take on any challenge you ask of him, and he's been performing well both offensively and defensively. KJ, I know this is your type of player. What have you thought about Christian Jenkins this fall?
Yeah, I think, to start the year, Christian, wasn't getting much playing time, getting maybe 1 at-bat a game, and he's kind of worked his way into being the everyday catcher, and he never really leaves the lineup. And, he's done that both. I think he stepped up big defensively for me behind the plate. But, what he's done offensively, he puts a good at-bat up every single time he's up there. And it's no surprise when you watch him in practice, man. This guy's just a grinder. He's gritty, and he gets the most out of his body.
Yeah, I mean, this guy has really, you knew when Colby walked through the door, he was going to be a big player. You knew when Hank walked through the door, he was going to be a big player. You knew Landon Portell was going to be a big player. Christian Jenkins kind of came out of nowhere. He really just worked his way into this position, and I imagine he's going to continue to get more and more opportunities as the weeks go on and moving into next season. Finally, the last rookie I want to talk about here is Landon Durbin for 12U Floyd. This is a guy who, again, started on the bench, started, with one at-bat a game maybe, and now he's moved into the starting shortstop role for this team. And I'll tell you what, Bernie, I was a little bit questioning if he was ready to be the starting shortstop for this team, but he's continually proved me wrong and keeps making these plays at short, has really not made very many mistakes over there. His hitting, I think, he's been solid. He's hitting over 300, but hasn't quite found his power stroke, but defensively he's been very solid for this team. Bernie, the starting shortstop on 12U Floyd, what have been your kind of early thoughts on Landon Durbin's Bear career?
Yeah, I've not seen this kid play, as of really recently, so I haven't seen him play much shortstop. But first thoughts on this kid that this kid's a very good athlete. He's one of those guys that very athletic, but I don't know how much of a baseball player he was yet, but has that tremendous upside. Lucas Closter type and Aaron Noel kind of type of player. And those kind of players, man, if they can stick around and succeed, they'll easily become one of the best players just because of how athletic they are, how fast they are, how much power they can have in that bat. I think Landon Durbin can get there one day.
Yeah, these rookies are just 5 of what has been an absolutely stacked rookie class for the Bears, so we'll continue to monitor their progress, and we'll have a new prospect list here in November. As we've seen all these guys play for a fall season, we'll give our new thoughts on our top prospects. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Bears Baseball Network. Be sure to send in your doubles, triples, and homers to bearsbaseballnetwork@gmail.com to be featured in the next Hacking Time. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Bears Baseball Network, and we'll talk to y'all next week.